Hello everyone and welcome to Daily News Simplified, your one-stop solution to detailed analysis of current affairs which are published in the daily edition of the Hindu newspaper and are equally relevant for your UPSC preparation. Articles dated 27th of January 2023 are listed on your screen and the timestamping along with the notes in PDF and Word format are given in the description box. So let us begin with the first article for the day.
Hello. The online registration for the pre-pariksha 2023 has been closed. But do not worry, you can still appear for these tests. For that, you have to come to the Raus IAS center at Karol Bagh. So, if you want to appear for the test, come at the center and register yourself. And please note there are 3 timings for the test. The first is the morning when the test will start at 9 a.m. The second is in the afternoon session when the test will start at 1 p.m. And then in the evening when the test will start at 5 p.m. So, if you want to appear for pre-pariksha test conducted by Raus IAS Study Circle, then you can walk in at the center at Karol Bagh.
Here is your question for weekly answer writing practice. The question says, critically examine whether export-led employment generation is a wise idea for Indian economy or not. Suggest measures to enhance employment in export-led sectors in India. You should write answer to this question in 250 words. The discussion on this question has already been taken place on 21st of January 2023 in one of the DNS. You can go through that link given in the description box and also go through the link to this question and try to submit the answer before Saturday to get it evaluated by the dedicated team of evaluators at Raus IAS. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 12 and reiterates the contribution and the commitment of India and Egypt towards the non-aligned movement. Now, Egyptian President Al-Sisi has paid an important guest visit and has also signed important agreements with respect to the technology and defense cooperation. He is on India's visit on the pretext of 26th January Republic Day of India. Now, today we are going to look into the importance of non-aligned movement, basic historical aspect that you can utilize as far as world history is concerned. Cold War, its repercussion, and decolonization in GS paper 1 can well be answered as far as non-alignment is concerned from today's discussion. As far as India's international relations, including the global groupings are concerned and the agreements, it is well utilized for your GS paper 2 under the international relations. Today, we are going to look into this article from the pretext of the lead article for today. We are going to look into the historical aspect in the formation of non-aligned movement, features of NAM, factors behind the coming up of NAM, Panchsheel principle and its foundation towards Belgrade and Bandung Conference, relevance of NAM in today's world, issues associated with NAMs, and possible way forward along with India's approach towards NAM. So let's start with understanding what NAM is all about. Well, NAM or non-aligned movement is nothing but an international policy. It is not an agreement, it is not a convention, it is not a treaty. It is a policy which is followed by those countries which were not in favor to join any power blocks. Now, after Second World War, the entire world was divided between whether they should join the powerful blocs or not. There were 2 powerful blocs, the 2 victorious powers of World War II, United States of America and Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, that is USSR. Both these countries had their own ideology. They wanted to lead the world as a global leader on the pretext of communism and capitalism. Both these nations were fighting in order to capture as many newly independent countries in their favor as possible. When India became the independent nation, they approached India as well to join either the communist model or the capitalist model. Well, India came up with a socialist model on its own. Not only India, many independent countries in 1950s and 1960s from Africa and Asia had the same ideology that they would not like to join any power bloc. Why? Because they had a fear that if they joined these power blocs, they might end it in the Third World War, because both these countries, US and USSR, were building up the nuclear arsenal. They were in the Cold War themselves. They might fight any time. These were the perception of the newly independent countries. Based on the same power blocks, these countries decided not to align with US or USSR. And along with that, they also try to promote the international peace and harmony along with the cooperation between the members. So non-aligned movement, where India is the founder, came into existence, and since then the member countries have increased manifold to an extent that now there are 120 members in NAM along with many other observer nations. The features of existing non-aligned movement are that they will not align with any power blocks, whether it's Soviet Union or USSR. Now in 1990, Soviet Union disintegrated. It's only Russia which is the largest power now, and there are the conflict between USA and Russia. But the Cold War has ended. And in the last 2 decades, what we have seen that there was a unipolar world where US had its own power hegemony. Now we are observing a new Cold War between US and the newly rising power China. The another feature was that they wanted to oppose any kind of militancy alliances, be it NATO, led by US, SEATO, or Warsaw Pact. Then they also wanted to make freedom for their own independent decisions, as most of these nations were sovereign in their constitutional status. They wanted not to remain aloof from the international problems and politics. Please understand. Non alignment does not mean that they are completely blind towards international issues or problems. They want to join, they want to talk, they want to solve international problems, but not as an allied power to US or Soviet Union, but as an independent power as a sovereign state. Lastly, they want to judge a particular issue on the basis of merit and not on the basis of biasness. They would like to defend on the rights of the people for their freedom and justice, and this is one of the reasons that non-aligned movement remain one of the important catalysts in promoting the decolonization in the world. And in this, the role of India has been pivotal. India, under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru and later on Indira Gandhi, had been very active in promoting the decolonization of Asia and Africa. And in that, they have taken an active participation from the non-aligned movement nations. Now, these are the important factors that were responsible for the formation of non-alignment. The first is the rise of global tension caused by the Cold War. Now, Cold War is a situation where two important power blocks, USSR and USA, were anti to each other. They were forcing their respective ideology of capitalism and the communism on the newly independent countries. They were competing on the nuclear arsenal. They were building up the militarization in order to be prepared for a war in the future. But as we have seen in the past, that no two nuclear countries have ever fought a war with each other. So, nuclear power arsenal also acted as a deterrence between these countries, but they have created an era of uncertainty and an era of fear, which is normally called as Cold War. Because the Cold War was in session, it created the global tension among the newly created countries, which were the independent nations from Asia and Africa, including India. This was not in their interest. So they decided not to align with either of these power and try to keep away and promote peace and prosperity. The second important reason was that the struggle against the imperialism and the colonialism was very high. After the Second World War, there was a wave of anti-imperialism and anti-colonization. That is one of the reasons why there were hundreds of countries that got independent after Second World War, especially in Asia and Africa. They wanted to enjoy their own sovereignty and freedom. They did not want any pressure from the bigger nation on their policies. But somehow this could not happen. We have the example from the Korean Peninsula, we have the example from Vietnam, and also from the countries in West Asia, where the Western powers, the US and USSR war or the Cold War has created many issues, including the border issues or the frontier issues, weapon issues, energy issues, as well as the humanitarian crisis. The third reason was right of independent judgment. They want to create their own identities. These newly countries wanted to solve their problems without outside interference or influence because they knew that once they try to capture the outside influence, they are going to be biased in their own decision making and they are going to be very, very one sided or aloof in terms of international policies. So let's say one independent country joins the capitalist model of US. In that manner, that country is going to be pro US even if something wrong had happened at the international platform. You will find that European countries were very reluctant in criticizing the United States and its active participation in the Vietnam War. So these countries want to enjoy their independence in order to make their own decisions. The fourth one is that the friendly relations with all nations are required. These newly independent countries wanted to create a good relation. Let's say there are four countries and there are other five countries, and all of them want to create their own friendly relation instead of creating relations on the basis of what these power blocks are telling them. They wanted to establish a friendly relation to grow together. And this is one of the reasons why India and Africa share a very much good reputation in the international relations because they have these kind of ideologies. They wanted to create or restructure the international economic order because these power blocks were either capitalist or communist. These newly independent countries never wanted to be either of them. Capitalism requires heavy sacrifices in the initial stage. It might create high levels of economic inequality. On the other hand, communist model is hard to follow. So these countries wanted to create a middle path. So they needed capital as well as the technical know-how so they can grow in the future as well. And the lastly, they wanted formation of collective force because they were weak. Collective force can help them to have more strong moral and collective force. They want to speak something against these important powers, they can if they are standing collectively. So all these reasons led to the formation of non-aligned movement. Now how it came into existence. Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India in 1954, on the pretext of improving India's-China's relationship, signed an agreement with China, calling it as Panchsheel. Later, this became the guidelines for NAM. The five guidelines of Panchsheel, Panch means five, includes the mutual non-interference in each other's internal affairs. So these newly countries will not interfere in each other's affair. There is no aggression on each other. They will benefit equally with each other. They will respect each other's territorial integrity. This was one of the reasons why India was against the initiative taken by China in 1962 war because China violated the territorial integrity of India in Ladakh. And last point of the Panchsheel was peaceful coexistence. Means that both the countries, whosoever sign, whosoever work on this Panchsheel principle will exist in a peaceful manner. They will not come into the war with each other. Now, after coming up of these Panchsheel principle, in Bandung Conference of 1955, Jawaharlal Nehru of India, Chow Enlai of China, and Nasser of Egypt came together to come up with the basic ideology of NAM. First NAM summit held in 1961 in Belgrade, Yugoslavia, in which three important leaders were Jawaharlal Nehru, Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt, both these countries have recently revived the NAM, Joseph Broz Tito of Yugoslavia, the country which has hosted the first conference. And these are also known as the architects or the founding fathers of NAM. Now, these are the two important conferences. First is the Bandung Conference 1955, in which all NAM leaders united and agreed with each other and decided to support the UN to fulfill its aim and objective. Principles of Panchsheel were adopted and shared, and because of this, it has increased the respect of NAM leaders in the international politics, including Jawaharlal Nehru. In Belgrade Conference of 1961, final shape was given in which Nehru, Tito and Nasser became the architect and the important international leaders. They discussed many issues like complete disarmament of the nuclear weapon, which could not happen unfortunately because of the Cold War, and India also had to enter into the creation of nuclear weapon. They opposed the imperialism and colonialism. Thanks to these important policies, After the 1960s, the anti-imperialist and anti-colonialist policy increased drastically in Asia and Africa. They oppose a racial discrimination in all the forms, and they also talked about the problems of Berlin and the Congo, that is, the division of these countries, as well as the Chinese representation in the UN. However, China never supported India's representation in the way India supported China in UN. Now let's analyze the relevance of NAM. What are the issues with NAM and why NAM is still relevant? We should not give up. The issues of NAM include that the legacy of Cold War era has ended. Please remember, NAM was created as a non-aligned movement to two important power blocs, US and USSR. Now the Cold War has ended. Do you think that the same policy should work now? Should NAM be taken up as a relevant for US and China under new Cold War? NAM can now no longer function as it was during the Cold War because now we are going through the unipolar world where the hegemony of US is extremely high. We have seen that the multilateralism has increased drastically. There are smaller blocs such as BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization or G20 which are solving more problems than the NAM itself. NAM has been unable to solve the problems of third world countries, especially in Asia and Africa. Let's talk about the humanitarian crisis which took place recently. The crises which were created because of the ISIS in the West Asia or the Rohingya issues in Bangladesh. NAM was incapable of solving that. Most of the nation are now shifting toward the defense blocks. They are creating weapons, they are buying weapons. New formation include NATO, Quad, where smaller groups of countries are looking into their self-interest from the strategic perspective. There is an ideological backwardness. Why? Because it is more on the negative side. The basic focus of NAM has been on not joining any group because of a fear of being a biased nation. Now that is a negative approach. India in 1990s and later on has been actively in participating with both Russia and US and now even China. India is one of the nation which is member of NAM but has very cordial relationship with three different international powers. And that is only because India is functioning on the positive side of NAM, that is on collective contribution rather than not joining any particular group. NAM has failed to address the important contemporary issues of the world: climate change, terrorism, humanitarian crisis, international trade under WTO. It has also shown the tendency to ignore some of the human rights violations committed by its own member countries, including those from the Africa. NAM has not stopped the arms race. And that is the reason why nuclear proliferation has increased drastically. Even the NAM's own member, including India, have been one of the nuclear power in the recent times. And lastly, NAM has been looked more as a third world country representation rather than a powerful bloc itself. NAM failed itself on creation of a collective effort in order to have more say in the international platform. However, all these points does not prove that NAM should be disregarded or it should be discontinued. The relevance of NAM lies because there is a new Cold War which is rising up in this state between China and US. New colonialism is now taking place. Belt and Road Initiative is one such example where powerful and rich countries are getting into the smaller countries to provide their hegemony and control their internal and external affairs. Nations now favor rule-based international order where NAM holds its own relevance. Bilateral wars, one that is going on in Ukraine and Russia, can be used as one of the instances where NAM can be utilized for the collective solution of an international issue. Many organizations, including World Trade Organization, to solve trade-related issues, World Health Organization, as we have seen, it failed drastically in the case of COVID-19. We have seen that these two important organizations and many others have been dysfunctional in their role to promote the multilateralism. Why? Because they are mostly ruled by the powerful nation and the policies are tilted toward these nations. So NAM could play a great role over here. NAM is one platform where India, one of its founder member, can assert its soft power, including the cultural power, economic power. and provide active leadership as being the torch bearer of multilateral platform. Not only that, it can also act as one of the platform for Asia Africa cooperation for a strong position of poor countries. And here also India can take a great lead in itself. Now, the point is, what should be the ideal way forward in this regard? What should be the possible solutions to make NAM once again an important platform for multilateral cooperation? The first is that NAM need to reform itself. It should clearly define its goal. No longer it should fight for imperialism and colonialism. There are new issues which includes the new colonialism. New powers are coming into the platform. They should start talking about that. They should start discussing on the common issues, which includes even the non-NAM members, such as climate change, terrorism, international trade, or even disaster management. They should also look into the possibilities of creating an economic bloc in themselves. They can come up with the preferential trade agreements among the smaller members. They can take stand on the international interest as a homogeneous group. That what NAM has to say on particular topic. That should be clear. India should take the lead. India can provide its leadership, its reputation in the international platform as far as NAM countries are concerned. It can act as a leader of 120 countries and can be a single voice of representation on the international issues. Through this, India will be in a position to solve many issues that are there with respect to the limitations of NAM. With this discussion in place, I'm going to leave you with this practice question. The question says that despite losing its global relevance, the moment we say this, you should write about the issues, the challenges faced by NAM. Now, despite losing its global relevance, non-aligned movement is a great platform for the small and less powerful nations to exert their demands in rising geopolitical uncertainty. So, given discussion that we have taken up, you should answer this question in 250 words and try to justify with the content that we have provided in both the dimensions of the topic. With this discussion, please, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 14 and talks about an important revelation under the Right to Information Act enjoyed by a citizen. In this Right to Information Act, the information which received was that India is now lagging behind in its target to increase the number and the quality of trees as well as the forest cover plantation in Green India Mission. Now, Green India Mission is one of the mission to control the climate change impact in India. It is part of National Action Plan on Climate Change, including other 7 important missions. We have covered that in the previous DNS. Today, we are going to look into what are the basic concerns which were found out under this RTI and why these important data sets are required for you to prepare in this examination. The relevance of this topic is straightforward. Such questions or forest status can be asked in the prelim examination as has already been done in 2019. In the mains examination, the same can be put up under environment and ecology status. Today, we are going to look into the importance of such kind of reports, important key terms, basics about this report, that is data and trend, findings of the report, and what are the basic concerns which were highlighted in this report previously. In 2019, UPSC has asked a question with respect to the order of the forest cover in percentage terms recorded under the forest report by Forest Survey of India in 2019. The answer to this question was 3241, that is, in terms of ascending order, the highest share of percentage was in Chhattisgarh and the least was in Maharashtra. So from that perspective, it is important for us to go into the basic terminology, status of the report, important trends, including the increasing and the decreasing order, and what are the basic concerns. So as far as reporting is concerned, so why do we need such kind of report? Why do we need such kind of reports to be made by India? The first reason is that we need to track the forest status in the country so that we should know that how conservation efforts of the government are actually working. that is required to know about the national value or the wealth and the development, because forests are one of the catalysts in the overall development of the state. They are actually providing the primary resources to the industrial sector. Not only that, they also provide the livelihood to millions of scheduled tribes and the tribal communities living in the forest. For example, minor forest produce are one of the primary source of income to the tribal communities in India. Widely used for the formulation policies. Such kind of reports are used by the government for making policies, planning as well as the management of the resources. Until and unless governments know that what is the percentage of the forest in the country, they won't be able to justify their policies. If the forest is going on the downward trend, if there is a regular deforestation in the country, that require extensive planning to expand the afforestation program. Until and unless there is a data available, government cannot justify its policies. Hence, in order to plan for the long term, in order to manage the existing forest, data sets are required. Now, India is one of the country which has been reporting to the international organization for its commitment as a member of these organization. For example, India is a member to Food and Agriculture Organization. It has already been part of various conventions and the commitment. For example, UNFCCC, in which Government of India has been regularly participating as conference of parties. Not only that, India has also been signatory to the Convention of Biological Diversity, in which forest diversity is extremely important in order to conserve its nature. India's status of forest report is also required by the students and the researchers to conduct more references as well as detailed analysis. These data set help these researchers and the student to understand the ecological diversity of India in totality. Now, before venturing into the actual report and its finding, it is important for the student to understand some of the key terms. The first one is tree cover. That is, all tree patches of size less than 1 hectare occurring outside the recorded forest area, including the scattered tree. Now, please take an example. Let's say this is a parcel of land. It has an area of 5 hectares. Out of this 5 hectare, 1 hectare of land is having certain number of trees, and these trees are very much scattered. These trees will now be covered under the definition of tree cover with one condition, that is, they are not recorded as forest. If these trees are recorded as forest, they will not fall under the tree cover and they will fall under the forest area. Forest area includes all the geographical areas that are recorded as forest in the government record, irrespective of the size, irrespective of what trees are there or what is the density. Density may be as high as 90% also, and maybe as low as 20 to 30%. Then comes an important term. What is forest cover? Forest cover means all the land more than 1 hectare in area, that is, if this area is more than 1 hectare and having a tree canopy density more than 10%. That is, more than 10% of the area of this forest should be covered by trees. If it is not, it will not fall under forest cover. So area more than 1 hectare having density over 10% will be covered as forest cover. This might be recognized as the forest area by the government. Once recognized, it will not be covered under the tree cover categorization. Apart from these three important key terms, forest carbon stock is also important. This is nothing but the amount of carbon that has been sequestrated from the atmosphere by the existing forest. Now, you all must be aware of the photosynthesis process. Plants require CO2 in order to survive and make food. Now, that CO2 is being utilized by the plants, by the trees from the environment. More plantation, more forestation means more absorption of CO2 from the environment. Now, as the world is going through the climate change, there is an excessive amount of greenhouse gases, including the CO2 in the environment. So, what do we need? In order to fight the climate change, we need such kind of efforts where the existing CO2 can be sequestrated, can be absorbed in a natural system. and carbon cycle including the afforestation is one of such effort which can help to reduce down the CO2. So the amount of carbon that has been absorbed and stored in the plantation or in the forest area is known as forest carbon stock. The last keyword is National Forest Inventory. It is an exercise. It is an activity where the knowledge is taken up with respect to the growing stock or the volume of all living trees as of now. That how many trees in the country are living, are there, which are functioning without any problem. This is also calculated by Forest Survey of India. You might find that some of the trees are being numbered, and these are the trees which are calculated, which are also prevented from deforestation or cutting down. Now, given these important terms, let us understand about this report. The status of forest report of India is a 2-year exercise. It is published by Forest Survey of India for every 2 years. The previous one was published in 2021. The next is going to be published this year. The first one was calculated in 1987 and the previous one, that is 2021, was 17 in its series. India is actually one of the countries which has conducted such kind of reports, which is a good sign. As per this report, this survey is calculated on the basis of 3 different forms of density. Density means the number of trees over a particular area. There is very dense forest where 70% above density is required. Then there is moderately dense forest 40 to 70%, and then there are open forest that is 10 to 40%. Below 10% is not calculated under the forest, as we have seen in the definition of forest cover. Shrubs which have density less than 10% are also surveyed, but they are not categorized as forest. Most of these shrubs are located in the desert and the dry regions. Now, what is the basic difference in the latest report? The latest report says that it has assessed the forest cover even in the tiger reserves, tiger corridors, Gir forest, which is a homeland to the Asiatic lions. Previously, these areas were not covered. Including these areas will definitely increase the forest coverage of India. Now let us talk about the important findings of this report. This is extremely important for your prelims as well as mains examination. So do go through this thoroughly. You are not required to remember the data set by heart. Just try to remember the trends and the order. As per this report, the forest cover has changed. It has increased from 21.67 to 21.71. That is, there is a 0.04% increase between 2 years. Tree cover, which is outside the forest cover, also find place with an increase of 721 square kilometer. Both these things are a good sign. Now, as far as performance of states are concerned, now this is something which was asked by UPSC in the prelim examination. The biggest increase was observed with Telangana, Andhra Pradesh followed by Odisha. These are the top 3 which has benefited the most. As far as deterioration is concerned, so it is mostly seen in the northeast. The concern is that northeast is the region which is highly biologically sensitive. They don't only have the forest, they have a very high quality of forest. Any deterioration in a very high quality forest is not a good sign. And unfortunately, the 5 states from the northeast have registered the worst deterioration in their history. This include Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Meghalaya, followed by Mizoram and Nagaland. As far as states having highest forest cover are concerned, so area wise, definitely Madhya Pradesh is the state which has largest area under forest cover, followed by Arunachal Pradesh, which has seen the deterioration, Chhattisgarh, Odisha and Maharashtra. See, they can remove one or the other form of state from here. So in the prelim examination, they did not give you Arunachal Pradesh. That does not mean that you have to put it in the order. Just go by the order which are given in the question itself. As far as percentage term is concerned, so of course it is the Mizoram followed by Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Manipur and Nagaland. And to your notice, all these states are from the northeastern region. That is the reason why quality of good forest is there in the northeastern state rather than other parts of the country. As far as carbon stocks are concerned, that is the amount of carbon sequestrated by the forest, it is 7,204 million tons in India, which is a very good sign, and there has been an increase of 79 million tons since 2019. However, more is required. As far as mangroves are concerned, so yes, they also increased by 7 square kilometer. India is one of the region which has one of the highest share of mangroves, close to 4,992 square kilometer. Now coming to the important disaster, which is the forest fire. 35% of India's forest is prone to forest fire. Every year we see such cases, including the Himalayan regions. By 2030, it has estimated that 45 to 64% of the forest will be prone to the climate change and the rising temperature. That simply proves that the above data of 35% is going to increase. Forest in all the states of India except Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Nagaland, that is northeastern state, will see highly vulnerable climatic hotspot. Ladakh is going to be the most affected one. Bamboo, on the other hand, has also increased, but this has increased by 400% from 13,000 to 53 to 54,000 square kilometer. And lastly, the biggest addition of the report, that is a new topic of the report, which includes the forest cover in the tiger reserves as well as the tiger corridors. Well, in both the things, yes, it has increased. Increased by 0.32%, but decrease in the tiger reserves. Tiger corridor means consequent areas having different tiger regions. Tiger reserve is a single area or single reserved or protected area. As far as forest covers are concerned, it has increased in 20 tiger reserves but decreased in the 32. Lastly, Pakke Tiger Reserve in Arunachal Pradesh has the highest forest cover, which is nearly 97%. This is one of the highest. Do remember this fact, the last one, it is also very important. Now, bringing out the important understanding of the report, it is also important that we should go into what are the limitations or the concerns which were highlighted by this report. The most important concern highlighted in the report is that the area of moderately dense forest. Now let us come back to the definition. As far as categorization is concerned, so moderately dense forest means where the canopy, density of canopy is 40 to 70%. Now the concern says that moderately dense woods, sometimes known as natural forest, has shrunk. It is a concern. Open forest, which has the density less than 40% to 10%, has increased. That is, now forests are shifting from moderate dense to the open forest, which is also a matter of concern. Shrubs have increased, which is a matter of concern. This shows the degradation of the existing forest. Forest cover has also decreased by 1000 square kilometer. The reasons are natural, including the disaster, landslides, heavy rains, and even forest fires, and anthropogenic regions, which includes the shifting agriculture by the tribal regions, pressure of the development activities, felling of the trees, and development activities here mostly includes the development of highways. You must have heard about development of highways even from the national parks and the tiger reserves, which has captured a lot of criticism from the environmentalist. With this discussion please, let us now move to the next article for the day. Now the nation has celebrated its 74th Republic Day yesterday. And on that pretext, government has also come up with an important theme which was not previously displayed in the 26th January parade. And this year, government has come up with an indigenous arms or Atmanirbharta as an important theme, and also the reflection of women power in the defense and security forces. On the similar line, government recently has announced Padma awards in order to honor important personalities and their contribution in various fields. So what we have done is that we have combined these two important articles. First, that published on page 1st, and the second one which was published on page 7th. So today we are going to talk about the basics of what happened in the Republic Day parade, as well as we are going to look into what Padma awards are and what are Etikopakka toys from Andhra Pradesh. So in this year's Republic Day celebration, that was the 74th overall, the theme was Atmanirbharta, which is self-reliance, and the Nari Shakti. Now, India's president herself is a woman, and that is one of the reasons why government came up with an important theme of Nari Shakti or the women empowerment in its display. The guest this year was Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. This year, 17 states and union territories have displayed their various themes on their respective tablets. Some of the important tabulas with respect to art and culture are listed below that we are going to discuss shortly. The importance of women in the role played in the defense and the security forces was the major theme for yesterday's Republic Day celebration. The reason is simple. India's defense force supreme commander is now a woman. That is the President of India, Draupadi Murmu. As far as Atmanirbharta is concerned, so India has displayed important defense productions and units that are made in India, including some with 100% indigenization. This included the battle tank Arjun, anti-tank missile Nag, K9 Vajra tank gun system, Akash air defense system, which has the purpose of killing out the incoming missile from the enemy, and lastly the supersonic BrahMos missile. We have covered most of these topics already in the DNS, hence you can search them in the search box with the title Raus DNS and these important themes. As far as cultural contribution is concerned, so out of the 17 states, the 6 have contributed directly towards the art and culture aspect. From Andhra Pradesh, Prabhala Tirtham was one of the theme, which is nothing but a festival of the peasantry during the Makar Sankranti, that is 14 and 15 January. Then there is the Manas Khand corridor development or a mission in which important temples belonging to the Manas Khand region will be developed by the government to promote the cultural aspect of Uttarakhand. From Jharkhand state, there was a depiction of Baba Baidyanath Dham, which is one of the 12 Jyotirling. We have covered Baidyanath in one of the focus edition or the monthly magazine of Raus IAS. Then there was the display of Durga Puja from West Bengal, as this has been included as one of the intangible cultural heritage to the humanity by UNESCO. This has already been covered under the Focus magazine. From the state of Maharashtra, there was Sade Teen Shakti Peeth, which is distributed into 4 important temples from Maharashtra, which includes Mahalakshmi Temple of Kolhapur, Talja Bhavani Temple from Tuljapur, Renuka Temple and Sapt Shrangi. From Uttar Pradesh, there was the theme of Ayodhya's Deepotsav, which has already been covered under the Guinness World Record. Now, covering the Republic Day, now let us shift towards the Padma Award. Well, from this single slide, we'll understand the entire structure of Padma Awards. Well, these awards are the second highest civilian awards given in the country after Bharat Ratna. And they have the basic 3 classification. Well, the order of preference is like this. Bharat Ratna, followed by Padma Vibhushan, followed by Padma Bhushan, and last in order we have Padma Shri. Well, these awards along with the Bharat Ratna started during the 1954 period. It was started during the period of Jawaharlal Nehru as the Prime Minister of India. It recognizes the achievements which were taken in all the fields of human endeavor. It is not limited to literature, art, science and technology and others. It is open to every person. This category of all was later added to the Bharat Ratna also. Previously, Bharat Ratna was limited to certain sectors or certain areas of achievement. Now it is open for all. All the persons, including doctors and the scientists, even if the doctors and scientists belong to the public sector or they are the government doctors or the scientists. So this award can be given to them. But government servants, including those people who are working in the public sector undertakings or public sector banks, are excluded from receiving this award. When it comes to the nomination, well, all citizens of India can nominate or can be nominated. A person can nominate himself or herself also. As far as awarding and selection is concerned, it is under the Padma Award Committee, which is chaired by the Cabinet Secretary to the Union Government. Every year, the maximum number of awards which are given includes 120 only. However, this does not include the people who are receiving the award after death. Now coming to the controversy. Is there any process to take the consent of an individual before awarding him or her this Padma Award? Well, as per the rules, there is no requirement to take the prior consent of an individual. The committee who has received the application or the committee who has received the suggestion to nominate a person for this award can take its own decision. However, every time they take the decision, they make a separate call, maybe through a written letter or maybe through a phone call, and communicate this to a particular person that they have been selected for this particular award. Now it is up to that particular person whether they want to take this award or deny this award. But their permission is not taken for the consideration. One of the important winners of Padma Award were the artists belonging to Ethikopakka Toys from Andhra Pradesh. Now, as far as contributors and their names are concerned, we need not to go deeper into that. What is more important from the art and culture perspective is what are these toys and their historical and cultural relevance. Now, the toys have been named after a small village known by the same Etikopakka, which is on the bank of Varha river near Vishakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. So, in future, in prelims examination, UPSC can ask it as one of the pointer in match the following. The art belongs almost 200 years ago when newly wedded brides try to use certain kinds of storage container made up of wood for storing their vermilion, that is sindoor, and turmeric. The later on the same art has been developed into forming toys and even the religious sculptures as you can see on the screen. These toys are made out of wood. So no other metal is used. It is pure wood. They are colored using the natural dyes and not the synthetic dyes. And they are derived from seeds, liquor, bark, roots and leaves of plants. The technique of making such tool is known as turned wood lacquer craft. It has already received the geographical indication tag under the handicraft category from the state of Andhra Pradesh. So all these basic facts are important for the prelim examination as well. With this discussion in place, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 7 and talks about the India's first mission to study the sun to begin from June and July this year. This mission is known as Aditya L1. Aditya stands for sun. It's a local name used for sun in India. And L1 is the Lagrangian position of this satellite that is going to be placed in this space. Today, we are going to look into about this mission and about the Lagrangian space points in detail. Now, as far as this mission is concerned, so this is known as Aditya L1. It is India's first Indian space mission to observe sun and its solar corona. This mission is going to look into sun's photosphere, chromosphere as well as the corona. These are the three different layers of sun that this satellite is going to observe. This mission will be launched by Indian Space Research Organization in the L1 orbit in the space. L stands for Lagrangian and point stands for the 5 important points, positions between two celestial bodies where the gravitational force and centrifugal force of these bodies remain in equilibrium stage. L1 lies around 1.5 million kilometers from Earth towards the Sun. This satellite is going to be launched in that L1 orbit and will observe Sun to conduct studies on various parameters. This satellite is going to have a spatial payload. Payload here means the object which is sent in this space. It might be a satellite, it might be any other object used for the experimentation. So, an important payload will be visible emission line chronograph. What it is? It will be used to capture the image of sun. It can do the imaging system, spectrography and polarimeter at the same time. That will help in getting high resolution images of the sun through this satellite. Now the point is, why do we need Aditya L1 satellite? The first thing, that it is going to be in ISRO's first space mission towards the sun. So it is a matter of reputation and also a matter of high-end space research from India. It will help in understanding the effect of sun on Earth and its surrounding, because sun has been ejecting various wavelengths of light and that has been impacting Earth's atmosphere itself. You must have heard about the coronal ejection, you must have heard about the solar winds, as well as you must have heard about aurora in the polar region of Earth. It will help in studying the Earth's upper atmosphere, whereas it will study the chromosphere and the corona. How they are functioning, how the physics is actually defining, and how they are providing the heating mechanism to the solar system. It will capture the photos as close as possible to sun's atmosphere and tell us how the energy is being transported from there. It will help us in understanding the coronal mass ejection, pre-flare and flare activities, how the space weather is functioning because of the sun, the propagation of space particles as well as various magnetic fields, and it will also help Indian scientists to help in tracking Earth's directed storms, which are impacting the overall solar observations. Understanding of this will also help in providing good direction to the satellite and also reducing down the harmful effect of solar radiation on the satellite functionings. Now the question is, we are talking about Lagrangian points. What are these? Well, there are 5 Lagrangian points in this space. As you can see on this image, the central part here is sun. So this is your sun and this is your earth. L1 are 5 such points. As you can see, L1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. These are 5 such points where the gravitational force of 2 large bodies and their centrifugal force are in the balance to each other. So whether you talk about L3, gravitational force and centrifugal force of sun and earth are equal, or you talk about L1, L2 or L4 and L5. At all these 5 points, gravitational force and centrifugal force will be balanced to each other. Simply proves, if we launch a particular satellite on these 5 points, they will remain stationary to a larger extent of their experimentation without creating any hindrance. The point is, we don't want a satellite to remain out of its orbit or to get detached from what it was supposed to do. We want the satellite to remain at a particular orbit to conduct the experiment as per the demand of humans. If the satellites are provided at these 5 points, it will remain stationary with the respective gravitational forces. Now, out of these 5 points, 3 are unstable and 2 are stable. The unstable ones are L1, L2 and L3. As you can see on the screen, they are in the straight line to the celestial bodies or Earth and Sun. They lie in a connecting line, but the point is, once they are nudged, let's say they are being displaced with any other force, they are going to be drifted off in the outer space. We cannot get them back in their original orbit. But if they are placed in the L1 and L4 Lagrangian orbits, even if they are nudged, even if they are displaced slightly from their position, they will come back through the effective restoring forces on their original spot. If L1 is so unstable, why India is choosing L1? L1, first of all, is just 1.5 million kilometers from the Earth. So we do not require much time to place this satellite to a particular position. We don't have to wait for months to get this placed on L1 orbit. It will have combined gravitational pull of Sun and Earth. Here, the Sun and Earth's combined gravitational pull will permit the spacecraft to remain nearly stationary. Why we are saying nearly? Because it is L1. It is mostly unstable. The another reason is that this point provides uninterrupted view. Because on the other point, there might be the case of eclipse, solar eclipse or lunar eclipse. But at L1, we are not going to get that kind of hurdle of eclipse. So here satellite can work continuously throughout the year without the issues of any hindrances due to eclipse. So as of now, with this discussion, you will be in a position that what is Aditya L1, why India is going to launch this satellite, and why this satellite is going to be launched only in L1 orbit. With this discussion, please, now we have come to the end of today's Daily News Simplified. Stay tuned for more such updates on the current affairs. Do hit the like button and subscribe button on this channel. See you in the next DNS. Thank you.